Hi there, and welcome to ClassMaker 2019. This video will give you step-by-step instructions on how to create your own student database file from the templates provided. After you've installed ClassMaker 2019, you can find the program and the instruction guides in your C Drive Windows folder under C Drive ClassMaker or C Drive ClassMaker 2019, as in this case here. The database files are found in the Data Files folder, which you can see here. And in that you'll find a number of demos, an empty file, and one that's designed for looking at here, the class list demo for 2019. Let's begin by opening the template, class list template 2019 empty, which is shown here. This empty file contains all the columns and the headers in the right locations so that you can create your own student database file. The first thing you'll notice when you open it is a security warning saying that macros have been disabled. The template comes with macros to check the spelling of the student names. The student names in column A are assumed to be the correct spelling, so that any misspelled names in the essentials friends, the incompatible friends, or the friend lists that are different from the spelling as shown in column A are assumed to be incorrect, and they will be circled or highlighted accordingly. So in order to enable this macro, you simply click the button labelled Enable Content, the warning will disappear, and you're ready to start entering the student data. Before beginning to create your own student database file, you should take note of the comments that are in row 1 of the student template file. The first one relates to the Control Q macro, which is used to format the student data correctly and update the spell checker, which checks the student's spelling. It is important not to add or delete any columns in the student template file. This is so ClassMaker can correctly identify the student names and identification in each column. You can hide the columns if you want to, but please do not delete them or add any new ones. You can change any of the column headers in cells D1 to I1 to suit your own requirements. In this case, the numeracy, literacy, behaviour, participation, accelerated, and ESL column headings can be changed depending on your school requirements. If you wish to enter teachers, you enter the teachers' names exactly the same way as the student names in column A, but you type the letter T in column C where the year level would normally go. There's a comment to try and keep essential friends to below 10% of the total cohort and incompatible student numbers to below about 20% of the student numbers. These are guides only. It will still work if the essential student numbers are above 10% and incompatible students are above 20%. However, it is good practice to try and keep these as low as possible and only make them in essential circumstances. ClassMaker works best with at least 4 friends per student, especially when the total numbers are over 100. That being said, it will be possible to use 2 or 3 students or up to 5 friends per student. However, it does work best if you've got at least 4. And for new students to the school who don't have any friend requests, you just leave their friend columns blank and they become their own friend and can be placed in any of the classes. The next thing to do is start entering the student names for the cohort at which you wish to make the class list from. You can copy and paste this from your own school database file. In this case, I'll type it in manually. In this case, we've got the first name is Daisy Aardvark. The next name, Sophie Butterfly. And so on. And you can enter the data yourself manually. I've got the database in here first, and so I've got all the student names in column A. So this is the first thing you should be doing so that you'll be able to use the spell checker to make sure all the names are spelled correctly as you go through. The next thing to do is start entering details about each student. The first one is the gender. In this case, Daisy is female. The year level, which you can either put in as year 1 as a single number, or you can put their current grade or class that they're in at the moment. In this case, we'll say that Daisy is in 1RA. The next 4 columns are describing the student's ability levels. In this case, the default is numeracy, literacy, behaviour, and participation. Now you can change any of these column headings if you like, and they will transfer directly across to the ClassMaker folder and headers that you notice in the main part of the ClassMaker window. In this case, we'll keep numeracy and literacy, behaviour and participation as standard and enter the data that way. The numbers and letters you can put into these columns are a 5-point scale. So that can either range from an A to E scale, where A is high and E is low. You can give that as a number, 1 to 5, where 5 is high and 1 is low. You can enter as a 3-point scale, low, medium and high, L, M, H, where L will equal 1, M will equal 3, 5 and H will equal 5. You can also put these down as a yes or no, where yes will equal 5 and no will equal 1. In this case, we'll mix it up a bit and say that Daisy has a numeracy level which is low at E, her literacy is medium at C, behaviour is 3, participation is also 3. The next 2 columns relate to a grouping of the students. So they may be in an accelerated class, or they may be a member of an ESL class, or it's a different groupings depending upon the way you wish to describe your school. This could be a musical ability levels, they could have special skills, they could require different requirements, and you can enter that as a yes or no. In this case, we'll say that Daisy is neither accelerated or in an ESL. We then get into where you define the friends. And the first column is an essential friend. The essential friends are friends who have to be in the same class as the student in column A. So if a student is classed as an essential friend of Daisy, then ClassMaker will only produce class lists where those 2 students are together. And again, it's important to try and reduce the number of essential friends to those that are absolutely essential. Don't just put it in there and make it as a nice thing to have. That's what the next 4 columns or next 5 columns are for the actual friends. So the friends requests are usually what the students have requested themselves or parents have requested for their students. And so here you enter the student names of the friends who are with Daisy. In this case, she's requested maybe Gorilla. So we type in the data and we can type it in manually like this. The next one is Penny Kangaroo. Friend 3, we can also, as well as typing it directly, we can choose the names from a drop-down box. And if you've got all the names in column A, you'll be able to click the little down arrow and find the right name. In this case, the next friend for Daisy was Leah Numbat, so we put her in there. Friend 4 we'll call Charlotte Iguana. Where'd she go? There she is. And in this case, she didn't choose a 5th friend. There were no incompatible students set up for Daisy in this case. So the next thing we do is go back to the next student, in this case Sophie Butterfly, who is also female. She was in grade 1D. Her numeracy level was B, literacy level C, behaviour 4, participation 5. But in this case, she has an essential friend, Frank Yak. So let's put Frank Yak in there. And again, he comes up, and as you can see, the background turns green because the spelling of Frank Yak was the same as what's in column A. Let's try putting in a spelling mistake. So Charlotte Iguana, which we will spell incorrectly. And you can see I've left out a couple of letters in Charlotte's name, and her background has not turned green. So that will give you a quick update as to whether your spelling is correct. You can also use the Control Q macro to check this. So what I'll do is I'll hold down the Control button, press Q, and what the template will go to do is check the spelling in the student template file and correct any errors that it can, but also highlight any of the spelling mistakes. In this case, it will circle it with a red oval. So then I know that Charlotte Iguana is spelt incorrectly. So if I look down, I can find her. I then hit the Control Q macro again, and the name is no longer circled and it is coloured in green. So that's a good way of checking to see you've got the spelling in columns J, and all the friend columns up to J to Q are all correctly spelt, in that the name is the same as what's written in column A. So we can go through and put names in all the different friend columns, all the incompatible columns, and this is something that I've done before, shown here. And this is also provided as Year 1 2019 ClassListDemo.xls. And you can see all the names have been entered, numbers, year levels, and all the names are correctly spelt. Let's say I choose Frank Yak, but let's say I accidentally put 2 spaces in between his name. You can see then that because Excel doesn't see that as an exact match, and you might look at it and say, well, the spelling is right, but there's actually two spaces between Frank and Yak, it will not see that as being an exact match. Hitting Control Q actually reduces and removes any of these additional spaces in the student names and make sure that it's correctly spelled. When I'm finished with that, I can then save the data. I'll call it Class List Demo, copy, and save that ready to be taken in to the ClassMaker program.